First question, critically discuss economic and environmental cost of farm subsidies in India. So economic and environmental cost of farm subsidies. Answer, farm subsidies provide governmental. So farm subsidies provide governmental financial to the farmers and agribusiness to reduce their input expenditure and supplement their income. So farm subsidies provide governmental financial to the farmers and agribusiness to reduce their input expenditures and supplement their income. Economic cost, high burden of subsidies on exchequer and distorts market price of agricultural produce, affects farmers' income because of their lack of productivity and farm seeking technologies, distort market prices and high burden of subsidies on exchequer, and farm subsidies typically transfers income from consumer and taxpayer to relatively wealthy farmland owner and farm operators. The farm subsidies typically transfer income from consumer and taxpayer to relatively wealthy farmland owners and farm operators. This creates moral hazards in the economy. The subsidy discourage farm and innovating and cutting costs. Subsidies discourage farmers from innovating, cutting costs, and diversifying their land use, and taking other actions needed to prosper in the competitive economy. Economic cost theory: degradation of soil fertility due to environmental cost. So degradation of the soil fertility due to distorted NPK, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus ratio, and leads to monoculture, thus affects ecological chains, and water tables are affected as the crops which consume large amounts of water are encouraged through subsidies. The monoculture in Punjab, Haryana led to multiple cropping, thus stubble burning during winters. Indian subsidies, the cost of energy to pump waters for agriculture. So Indian subsidies is the cost of energy to pump water for agriculture, which encourage farmers to pump more water than they need. Second question: examine the key features of the Citizenship Amendment Bill 2016 and analyze key issue related bill. Citizenship Amendment Bill 2016. The Citizenship Amendment Bill is its feature is amends the Citizenship Act 1955 to make illegal migrants who are Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, and Jains, Parsis, and Christians from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan eligible for citizenship. So, Citizenship Act 1955 to make illegal migrants who are Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Chinese, Persian, Christian from Afghanistan and Bangladesh and Pakistan are eligible for citizenship. Under the Act, one of the requirements for citizenship by naturalization is that the applicant must have resided in India during the last 12 months and for 11 of the previous 14 years, and the bill relaxed these 11-year requirements requirements to 6 years for a person belonging to same-sex religion and 3 countries. So the Citizenship Amendment Act 1955, here you can see the illegal migrants who are like Hindu, Sikh, others from Pakistan and Afghanistan and Bangladesh eligible for citizenship. Under the Act, one of the requirements for citizenship by naturalization in that the applicant must have resided in India during the last 12 months and 11 of the previous 14 years. The bill relaxes This 11 years requires to 6 years for the persons belonging to the same six religion and three countries. Issue states like Assam considered the bill to work against the cultural and linguistic identity to the indigenous people of the state. There is an opposition to the idea of granting citizenship to a lone individual on the basis of religion. The bill is designed to grant citizenship to non-Muslim refugees persecuted in neighboring countries. An NRC does not distinguish migrants on the basis of religion. It does not distinguish migrants on the basis of religion. If the bill becomes an act, the non-Muslim need not. So, if the bill becomes an act, the non-Muslim need not go through any such process. Thus, it will clearly be discriminating against Muslims identified as undocumented immigrants. It will clearly discriminating against Muslims identified as undocumented immigrants. States sharing borders with Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan is likely to be affected. Next question: the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is the most significant cleanliness campaign by the government of India. Do you think Swachh Bharat Abhiyan would achieve its objective? Give arguments in support of your answer. Swachh Bharat Abhiyan campaign was launched to eradicate open defecation by 2019. Success, a sense of responsibility has been evolved among the people through the Clean India movement. Within 3 years to launch, about 50 million toilets have been constructed in rural India. So 5 crore toilets now have been constructed in rural India, increasing the coverage of 39% to 69% now. So for 2,48,000 villages are declared open defecation free. 2,48,000 villages. Similarly, 2,203 districts have eradicated open defecation. Challenges remaining. Challenges remaining. Fund allocation under Swachh Bharat Mission Urban, the allocation was merely 2,300 crore in 2011. As of 2011 census, 31.16% of the total population lives in urban area, and also the growth of population in urban areas is 32% over the decade, and rural is 12%. In urban area, huge landfills sites running beyond capacity are the biggest problem. The components of the problem in urban area are very different from those of rural area. Most of the money allocated in going towards latrine construction, and very little towards information, education, and communication. IEC. Many rural Indians do not want the kinds of latrine promoted by the government. According to the survey, Delhi, NCR, and UP, most people thought the goal of the SBM was general cleanliness of houses and public spaces. There was little awareness that an important goal of the SBM is to eliminate open defecation. The mission lacks proper accountability and feedback mechanisms to access its success. Such surveillance report released by Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation is only a report available. Last question. Critically analyze the role of British policy in creation of Great Famines of Bengal during the last decade of 19th century. The British had a ruthless economic agenda when it came to opening in India. And that did not include empathy for native citizens. Under the British Raj, India suffers countless famines, but the most hit was Bengal. The first of this was in 1770, followed by Civil War 1778, 1783, 1766, and 1773, 1892, and 1897, and 1943 to 1944. Partial failures of crops was quite irregular occurrence in the Indian peasant's life. Partial failure of crops was quite irregular occurrence in the Indian peasant's lives. The surplus stocks which remained after paying the tributes was so important to their livelihood because with the increase of taxation, the surplus deteriorated rapidly. When particular partial failure of crops come in 1768, the safety net was no longer in place. Priority wherever the possibility of a famine had emerged, the Indian rulers would waive their tax and see compensatory measures such as irrigation instituted to provide as much relief as possible to the stricken farmers. The colonial rulers continued to ignore any warning that came their way regarding the famine, although starvation had set in from early 1770. The ones who had yet not yet uh, succumbed to the famine had to pay even greater taxes so as to ensure the British treasury did not suffer any losses during the travesty. So here 70 to the present time. So here, so this time what happened now? The ones who had not yet succumbed, the famine had to pay even greater taxes so as to ensure that British treasury did not suffer any losses during this tragedy. British had issued widespread orders for cash crops to be cultivated. These were intended to be exported. Thus, farmers who were used to growing paddy and vegetables were now being forced to cultivate. The farmers who were growing paddy and vegetables were now being forced to cultivate indigo and poppy and other such items that yield a high market value for them, but could be of no relief to a population starved of food. There was no backup of edible crops in such of famine. Thank you.